Long before the notion of 200 years circulated throughout discussion boards, players have debated on who is the most hated champion in League of Legends. Despite how no-brainer of a question that sounds, the answer is not as clear. Back in 2021 though, a user by the name of I Waste My Money, same, took the initiative to survey every champion subreddit and collect responses on who they hated the most. After tallying up all the results, they ranked the top 5 champions for each subreddit, and the one who appeared the most in first place wasn't Yuumi, or Teemo, or Seraphine, or Viego, or even Yone. It was surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, Shaco, the Demon Jester. What's interesting is that Shaco was the most commonly hated champion even among those that played a different role as him, as in even support or ADC mains put him as number 1. For many of you, I'm sure Shaco needs no introduction. Regardless of who you believe to be the most irritating champ to go up against, there's no doubt in my mind, none of us will be happy to face off against him under any circumstance. One would think with a far less overloaded kit than the likes of modern day champs, Shaco wouldn't even be on the list. Yet he manages to uphold his position as public enemy number 1. So for today, I want to break down exactly why everyone hates him by analyzing his abilities and playstyle in detail. Just a moment though, I want to give a brief shout out to our sponsor for today, War Thunder. You may have heard of it before. It's one of the most popular MMOs on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation based on military combat vehicles. You can choose from a variety of over 2,000 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships in combined arms PvP battles. Just like how League's champions are so varied, every vehicle is detailed and modeled down to the individual components, giving you no shortage of experiences. War Thunder derives its collection of war machines from real combat vehicles, all the way from the 1920s to now, so if you're something of a war history geek like I am, you'll definitely recognize a lot of them. I myself am very interested in naval history from World War II, so being able to see high-def model renders of all the different ships is attention to detail I appreciate a lot. You can also customize them by applying camo, historical markings, and decorations, letting you add your own personal flair to things. On the subject of vehicles, I should mention that no external hardware is necessary. I know other racing and flying simulators incentivize you to purchase expensive tech, but you only need a keyboard and mouse or a controller to take care of everything. I highly recommend you try out War Thunder. Use my link on screen or in the description and there will be a free bonus pack waiting for you, including multiple premium vehicles, boosters, and more. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring the video, but for now, let's get back to bashing on Shaco. Just by looking at his design, you can sort of draw a conclusion on what kind of playstyle he has. Shaco was released on October 10th, 2009, one of the earliest in the game, and for the most part, he's maintained the exact same kit all throughout, for better or worse. He's your archetypal jester clown, known for their creepy personality, penchant for trickery, and psychopathic homicidal tendencies, so basically your typical jungle main. Without even going in-game, one can infer that he doesn't look like the type of person who enjoys a fair and honorable fight. Quite the opposite, Shaco is an anagram of chaos, and that's exactly what he likes to do. Shaco's part of the Assassin class, a rogues gallery with an already contentious reputation as it is. Their high-speed innovation makes them difficult to track and pin down, and they specialize in seeking out vulnerable targets to shut down before retreating to safety. For some, that can come in the form of blinding speed like Katarina, Yone, and Kiana, making them high risk, high reward as they can wipe out several members of the enemy team on their own, but are equally at risk of getting blown up themselves. Other champions opt for a more stealthy approach, literally. Champions like Kha'Zix and Evelynn prefer to keep a low profile and make use of invisibility to wipe out unsuspecting targets. Much to our chagrin, Shaco belongs to the latter category, but at the same time, he doesn't really come off as a one-shot assassin compared to his peers. Mind you, he most certainly can do so, especially if you itemize that way, but you can't really put him in the same vein as like a Rengar or Talon in terms of assassination pressure, because that's not what he specializes in. Contrary to popular belief, and despite what the wiki says, I don't consider Shaco an assassin. I actually consider him an area controller and disruptor. In a more general sense, Shaco is an anti-carry, someone whose job is not to carry a bigger stick than his opponent, but to break the opponent's stick, if that makes sense. Around a year and a half ago, oh my god, it's been almost 2 years, I made a video on anti-carries, and in my opinion, there's no one more emblematic of this group than the Demon Jester himself. There are 3 factors that distinguish an anti-carry from a regular carry. First, they have one or more ways to stop enemy momentum. The easiest way to do this is through hard crowd control, but it has to be a specific kind of crowd control. Camille's hookshot stun does have the potential to stop an opponent dead in their tracks, but it's not as effective at halting enemy advance, as when used to run away, you're not going to be stunning anyone, and you need lightning fast reflexes to intercept enemy engage. On the other hand, an attack like Gragas' Body Slam is excellent for disruption. You can time it to stop dashes right in their tracks like a Lee Sin Q or cancel channeling abilities like Katarina's ultimate. Basically anything that just says nope to the enemy team. Second, they have an ability that can only really be used as a preemptive setup tool or reactive defense, and is usually not as effective when used to engage as opposed to a response to engage. Malzahar's Nether Grasp is the single biggest middle finger to any rushdown champion. With the press of a button, both he and his target are suspended in place, making it very easy for his team to shut down whoever he's suppressing. But since Malzahar isn't known for his mobility, he has to essentially wait for someone on the enemy team to be dumb enough to get in range of his ult. Third, they exert pressure by preventing the enemy carry from exerting theirs. In a way, Malzahar's Nether Grasp does this job too, but another example would be Mordekaiser's Death Realm. He can ult a priority target like the enemy jungler to prevent them from smiting Dragon or Baron, along with separating them from the aid and protection of their team. In essence, anti-carries win games by stopping the enemy team from carrying, and there's no one else who does that job better than Shaco. In terms of ulting momentum, he has Jack in the Box, placing down a trap that's invisible and untargetable, meaning the only way to set it off is to activate it or disable it via Oracle Lens or Control Wards. Sadly for Shaco's opponents, Jack in the Box is the most powerful trap ability in the game, inflicting an AoE fear on all targets for up to 1.5 seconds, followed by a barrage of magic damage. I touched on this in the recent badly designed abilities video, but what makes it so annoying to deal with is that even if you know where it is, you can't attack it until you set it off first, and with a detection radius of 300, sometimes you're forced to walk right into it. For reference, Caitlyn's Yordle Snap Trap has a collision radius of 15, making it extremely easy to just walk around, especially since you can see it. Also, one trap can only root one person, whereas a single Jack in the Box can fear your entire team. It may not necessarily interrupt dash abilities like Gragas, but the fear prevents them from executing the rest of their combo after they go in, which is all you need to reposition and counterattack. Worse yet, if he goes AP Shaco, the boxes can last for over a minute and do serious damage. Jack in the Box also fits the second clause, where he has to sort of hope his opponent runs into them. Shaco does have the means to force him to set it off by going invisible and blocking their escape route, but the onus still falls on the enemy champion to activate it, whether strong-armed into or not. Shaco can also set up boxes at key entry and exit points throughout the jungle ahead of time if he anticipates a fight breaking out as a sort of insurance policy. You see AP Shaco support players do this a lot, behaving more like an obnoxious Teemo. By doing this over and over again, Shaco also conditions the enemy team into not wanting to fully commit to an attack, checking off criteria number 3. Zed may not be as enthusiastic about sniping the enemy AD carry if there's a box standing right next to them. That can make all the difference between them dying or him. Jack in the Box isn't the only tool that checks off all 3. Hallucinate can as well, thanks to a brief half-second where he becomes untargetable while creating a clone of himself with the same identical health bar stats and whatnot. Aside from pinging Shaco or attaching a tether to him before activation, you have no way of discerning who the real Shaco is right from the start, though you may notice the fake Shaco is a lot squishier than the real one. Hallucinate stops momentum via distraction. Should you engage on him, you can't follow through with that engage because you now have to stop and figure out who the real one is. Guess wrong, and the clone explodes when killed, dealing heavy magic damage, spawning 3 Jack in the Boxes and fearing nearby enemies for 1 second. Even if you pinged him first before attacking, you still have to wait for him to reappear while not accidentally killing the clone. And if push comes to shove, he has deceived to escape from harm. Reactively, Hallucinate can also serve as a human zoning tool. If you're running away, you can throw his clone out to deter anyone from being too reckless with their attacks, or to just be a general nuisance. And while it doesn't seem very obvious at first, Hallucinate has to be one of the most effective anti-carry tools in the game. Since the clone is a walking bomb, the last thing you want to do is set it off, even if you're not worried about the damage. The 1 second fear might be just enough time for someone on the enemy team to strike you down. At the same time, you're faced with a choice. If the enemy Shaco builds AD, the clone will do really serious damage to you if you ignore it, and if you play someone with high area coverage, that can backfire you if Shaco puts his clone right in your face, as Xerath can't really attack the enemy team without attacking the clone. The explosion damage won't hurt too badly, but what Shaco's really trying to do is distract you, prevent you from comfortably advancing on your position. He doesn't care if you do or don't destroy his clone, what he's really after is to waste your time. On the other hand, if Shaco builds AP, the threat of the clone exploding is very much real. Not only does it damage all nearby enemies, but if caught alone, you're staring down 3 Jack in the Boxes worth of DPS at once. Hallucinate can easily shred your HP below half from the explosion and boxes alone. Now you may think, because it's AP, the auto attacks don't do a whole lot, so you can just ignore it and continue on as usual. That's not an option either. The clone explodes on its own after 18 seconds. The only way out for either version is to put some distance between you and it, but that ultimately plays into Shaco's goal of stopping you from doing what you want to do. This is the #1 reason everyone hates Shaco. It's not what he does, it's how he does it that pisses people off. Other anti-carries like Galio or Malzahar are such by virtue of their reactive defense. Meanwhile, Shaco is an anti-carry by virtue of his zone control, and aside from that, he's still a bitch and a half to fight. AD Shaco rips you apart through the rest of his abilities. Backstab, as the name implies, makes him deal increased damage when attacking from behind, and Deceive lets him appear right behind you without any prior warning. Emphasis on prior warning. Even assassins who rely on invisibility to attack give off some kind of heads-up notice, or their invisibility doesn't last very long, restricting how far they can move. That was the whole basis behind the camouflage and invis change back in Season 7. Champions with longer lasting stealth like Evelynn or Twitch have a detection radius, so if they get up close to someone, they're visible, while champions with invisibility can't be revealed under any circumstance, but their invisibility is bound by either time or location. Kha'Zix can only go invisible for small bursts with its ultimate, while Akali stays invisible only while inside her Twilight Shroud, which is completely visible. Shaco's stealth is inconspicuous, doubles as a blink, meaning he can go over walls with it, and lasts for 3.5 seconds, long enough for him to travel a pretty significant distance, especially with a blink. Unless you see him coming ahead of time, 1 second he's not there, the next he is. Also, unlike other invis type abilities, Deceive is just as effective as an escape tool as it is for Engage. Twitch can't rely on ambush to run away unless he's already far enough to lose vision. Akali can't use Twilight Shroud as an escape tool, and unless you abuse Fog of War, Kha'Zix can't use Void Assault for escape either. Shaco can use his Q though. And he can prevent you from chasing after him by placing down boxes, running to one that was already set down beforehand, using his clone as a decoy, or all of the above. Despite his assassination and burst potential being noticeably weaker than his peers, he feels way more aggravating to go up against because half the time you can't even catch him. His sole win condition is to be as annoying as humanly possible, and to rub salt on the wound, he's not annoying because of what he does, he's annoying because he gets away with this so easily. There are a lot of annoying champions out there, Teemo, Akshan, Yuumi, Zoe, Ivern to name a few, but at the very least, once you get your hands on them, you can rip them to shreds. That's their weakness, you just have to catch them. Shaco, however, is not only difficult to catch, but punishes you for catching him. The more infuriating thing is that I don't think that's how he was meant to be played at all. For most of his career, Shaco was always a hybrid scaler. You could build either attack damage or ability power and find equal success. But early on, I would say between Season 4 to 7 give or take, AD Shaco was more prevalent due to lack of incentives to go AP. But then in pre-Season 7, as part of the Assassin update, he was given a lot more AP scaling in his kit. Deceive once had an AP ratio before he was taken out in version 7.7, but Jack in the Box also had a 5% AP ratio added to his duration. And they added the boxes spawning after the clone from Hallucinate exploding, creating more convincing reasons to go AP Shaco. From Season 7 to 9, they took away the AP ratio on Shaco's Q out and then put it back in, before doing away with it altogether in 9.20. However, in exchange, Jack in the Box was allowed to do AoE damage, significantly amplifying his potential DPS and clear speed. With more equity added to his W, Shaco found gainful employment as a support, zoning away enemies with boxes while gradually burning away at their HP through Liandry's and Demonic Embrace. My problem with this approach is that Shaco's original playstyle is to be a slippery assassin, someone who's never down for the count unless he's dead. Shaco used to carry games by sneaking in, one-shotting someone, then running away using his clone in boxes for backup before doing it all over again. Granted, he still does that right now, but the presence of Shaco's support and the occasional use of AP Jungle Shaco has allowed him to follow a more neutral-focused poke and harass win condition. Jack in the Box conceptually is a well-designed ability, very much in character, but it's supposed to serve as a decoy, something to buy time since Shaco doesn't have any mobility after using Deceive. Nowadays, it's less of a decoy and more of a zone control tool. That goes double for Hallucinate. Before the rework, the only thing he had to worry about was the initial explosion from his clone. So if you were confident you wouldn't take too much damage, you could steamroll right through his clone and go for the real one. The point of Hallucinate back then was for increased DPS, that's why you went AD Shaco. Now it has that 1 second fear and the boxes, so unless your name is Olaf, you don't want to break that clone whatsoever, even if you can face tank his damage because you'll get CC'd, basically turning it into a living version of Kog'Maw's passive. Shaco went from ha 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 you can't catch me to ha 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 you can't do anything. That's why he feels way more rage inducing to go up against than even 200 years champs. At least for the latter, you can take them head on in a fight, whereas Shaco can spend the entire game doing nothing but placing boxes down, throwing knives at you, and zoning you with his ultimate while spamming Control 4. Longtime viewers of mine know how much I despise champions who win by not interacting. Singed's entire playstyle is just not okay. Karthus' ultimate allows him to win games without being anywhere near you. Any champion who wins by not interacting with you is terribly designed. I have more respect for Yone mains than I do Shaco mains. Don't get me wrong, Yone is a load of horse manure, but at least he has to fight you face to face if he wants to do anything. It's no surprise that Shaco is the most hated champion in the game. Doesn't matter if he's weak or strong, he will always be one of the most despised for the sheer fact that his entire existence is to f*** with you. Thematically, they did a fantastic job on that, but there are so many better ways they could design a trickster clown champion. Thankfully, Shaco is on the list of upcoming VGUs, so I hope they'll do a better job when that rolls around. Or they might make him worse, I wouldn't put it past them. So that's gonna be it for today. Shaco players are psychopaths. Changed my mind. No, but seriously, let me know if you have any ideas on how to rework Shaco so he still retains that goofy playstyle without being as annoying as he is now. Aside from that, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my other discussion videos if you haven't yet. And one more time, a big shout out to War Thunder for sponsoring the video. Be sure to check them out using my link on screen or in the description below. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon in the next one. Take care.